Thursday, Korea's ruling Saenuri Party regains the largest number of seats in the National Assembly as defectors are welcomed back into the fold. South Korea's defense minister says Seoul will work in close coordination with the European Union to turn the screw on North Korea over its nuclear weapons program. First, a British MP has died after she was stabbed and shot in northern England. A man has been arrested after the attack. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Friday, June 17th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, Korea's ruling Saenuri Party has accepted some familiar faces back into their fold, replenishing their ranks after an election defeat back in April. The returning lawmakers mean the Saenuri Party regains its status as the largest party in the National Assembly. Our political correspondent Park Ji-won starts us off.
The ruling Saenuri Party's interim leadership body decided Thursday to welcome back 7 lawmakers who left the party right before the general election in April due to internal feuds over the candidate nomination process. 4 of the lawmakers, including former floor leader Yoo Seung-min, have already won immediate approval for their applications to rejoin the party. As expected, the other 3 members will soon submit applications as well. With the decision, the ruling Saenuri Party now has 126 of the Assembly's 300 seats, making it the largest party once again. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea has 122 seats. However, experts say being the largest party is not very significant without a parliamentary majority. They say the greater significance lies in the idea that the party's interim council allegedly went against the advice of the presidential office.
The significance of being the largest party was relevant when the parliament decided standing committee chairs and the assembly speaker, and that phase is over. And even though the Saenuri Party has become the largest party again, it still lacks a majority, so the party still has to work with the opposition. I think it's more meaningful that the party made a decision that was independent from the suggestion allegedly made by the presidential office.
Officials at the presidential office had reportedly indicated that it hoped the party would hold off on making a decision until after the party convention in August, because most of the returning members are from the wing of the party that's now with the president. But the ruling party welcomed the former members back on Thursday, saying it is the first step towards innovation and integration within the party. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
South Korea's defense minister is in Paris to explore the possibility of jointly imposing further sanctions on North Korea to punish the regime for its nuclear and missile provocations. Our Kim Hyun-bin has more.
South Korea's defense minister Han Min-gu says that it will work in close coordination with France and the European Union so that North Korea will give up its nuclear program. UN slapped the hardest sanctions on the regime to date after North Korea conducted its 4th nuclear test and ICBM launch earlier this year. Giving a speech at École Militaire and Military Academy in Paris on Thursday, Han said that Pyongyang's 4th nuclear test earlier this year shows that the method used in the past has not been effective. Han is the first defense minister to speak in front of the French Military Academy. Han also met with his French counterpart on Wednesday and agreed to consider extra sanctions on Pyongyang, noting the seriousness of the nuclear and missile threats posed by the regime. A senior South Korean defense official also said France agreed to use its influence to encourage its friends in Africa and the Middle East to actively carry out sanctions on Pyongyang. The French minister emphasized that France's stance on the issue is strong, simple, and clear. South Korea and France also agreed to upgrade their defense industry cooperation through joint research, development, and marketing of defense technology. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's foreign minister Yoon Byung-se has been holding bilateral talks with his Bulgarian counterpart in Sofia to strengthen their partnership in various fields, but most importantly, securing collaboration in denuclearizing North Korea. Now, Gwon-swa with the details.
Bulgaria's Foreign Minister Daniel Mitov says his country supports the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and vowed to thoroughly implement the UN sanctions on the regime, as well as the independent sanctions from the EU. The remarks came during talks with Seoul's top diplomat Yoon Byung-se in Sofia Wednesday local time. Yoon also met with Bulgaria's Prime Minister and President, who was in Seoul last year for a bilateral summit marking the 25th anniversary of the bilateral relationship.
South Korea regards the minister's trip to Bulgaria as a historic milestone in bilateral relations, as it is the first of its kind since 1990, when the two countries established diplomatic ties.
The visit is also deemed significant because Bulgaria has maintained relatively good relations with North Korea through the years. Sofia established ties with Pyongyang in 1948, and since then, Bulgaria has provided aid to North Korea during wartime. The two countries have engaged in cooperation in culture and science since the 1970s, and the North's founding leader Kim Il-sung visited Bulgaria twice. North Korea's representation in Bulgaria is also said to be considerable, as it has a large embassy there. The South Korean foreign minister's visit to Bulgaria is part of Seoul's efforts to bolster cooperation with countries close to Pyongyang, including Cuba, Uganda, and Russia, to gain a broader consensus on denuclearizing North Korea after its fourth nuclear test earlier this year. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
A British Member of Parliament, Joe Cox, has died after being shot and stabbed in the street in northern England. Police have arrested the attacker, a 52-year-old man, and have launched a large-scale investigation. They say they are working on the assumption that it was a lone incident. Witnesses say Mrs. Cox stepped into a row between two men outside a library where she was meeting constituents. The 41-year-old mother of two was a member of the opposition Labour Party who, like most of her party, had been campaigning to stay in the European Union. Now, British politicians have been paying tribute, and both sides of the EU referendum debate have suspended campaigning until the weekend out of respect. Mrs. Cox is the first sitting MP to be killed in the UK since 1990. Now, shifting our focus to the expanding investigation into Korea's fifth largest conglomerate, Lotte Group. Prosecutors are delving into confiscated materials to find clues alleged to allegations that the business group amassed slush funds and engaged in other irregularities. Kim Min-ji has this report.
The probe into Lotte Group continues as prosecutors dig deep into allegations the conglomerate amassed slush funds through various channels. An official from the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office said Thursday that 4 to 5 people, including executives from the group's control tower, have been summoned for questioning. Prosecutors are looking into how the funds were collected, as well as where the money was used. Prosecutors said they took statements from Lotte officials familiar with the matter that Shin Gyuk-ho, the founder of Lotte Group, and his second son Dong-bin, currently the group's chairman, received roughly $25 million combined in funds from Lotte units every year. Company officials have said the money was given in the form of dividends and salaries. However, prosecutors suspect it's part of a slush fund. Building on the prosecutor's probe, executives at units that were raided over allegations of embezzlement and illicit transactions are also being called in for questioning. Much of the focus of the investigation is on Lotte Chemical and Lotte Home Shopping. The chemical arm is suspected of using another Lotte company in Japan to buy raw materials in order to inflate prices and then use the extra cash either to create slush funds or transfer those funds back to the Japanese unit. Lotte Chemical is also known as a cash cow for the group, with operating profit of over $1.1 billion last year, which account for a third of the group's total profits. Lotte Home Shopping is suspected of having committed business irregularities in the process of acquiring Chinese firm Lucky Pie. In 2010, Lotte Group set up a paper company to acquire Lucky Pie, and it was carried out by Lotte units investing $160 million into the paper company. Prosecutors say they plan to summon more officials and also plan to work with authorities in Japan to obtain materials from Lotte units based there if necessary. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, a local court has rejected an arrest warrant sought for the former chief of Oxy Korea in relation to the company's toxic sterilizer scandal. The Seoul Central District Court said the evidence compiled thus far against John Lee is not strong enough to justify his arrest. Prosecutors suspect that Lee did not take due measures even after receiving complaints from customers over the side effects of Oxy's humidifier sterilizer. He's also accused of false advertising after he said the product was safe for children, even though its safety had not been confirmed. The sterilizer was blamed for the deaths of around 100 people and serious illnesses among many others as well. Korean-American John Lee, currently CEO of Google Korea, had served as the chief of Oxy's Korea branch for 5 years from 2005. It's embroiled in a global emissions rigging scandal, but that hasn't stopped German auto giant Volkswagen announcing its plans of becoming a world leader in the green car sector by the year 2025. The plan involves building more than 30 types of electric cars and selling up to 2 to 3 million units each year. The company said it would build a services business comprising ride-hailing and car-sharing, expecting to generate billions of dollars in sales within the next 10 years. It will also hire another 1,000 software engineers to help develop its own autonomous driving and battery technologies. VW is battling to recover from the biggest business crisis in its history after admitting in September of last year to cheating US diesel emissions tests. Now, big data is one of the key aspects of the so-called fourth industrial revolution. Naturally, the search for the right talent to interpret and use that data is high on the agenda for industries around the world, but that talent hunt is proving to be quite a challenge. Kwon Jung-ho takes a look.
The fourth industrial revolution is fueled by quickly advancing technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics and nanotechnology, and it's all held together by big data.
The essence of the fourth industrial revolution is big data and incorporating that into AI technology, IoT hardware and robotics. It will bring smarter and better services and change many industries from finance to law.
Data analysis and mining is one of the most in-demand job skills for employers worldwide. But its popularity can be attributed in part to the current lack of supply compared to demand. This is illustrated in Korea, where the number of people in data-related work is said to need an increase of 20,000 or 20% to match industry demand. To get a better grasp of the situation, I visited a data analytics company in Seoul.
In
the last 5 years, data, especially social media data, has grown in importance, but there's so much of it, it's hard to handle. But because it's an urgent issue, companies are looking to hire people right now, and there aren't enough qualified people out there.
If that's the case, why aren't there more people trying to get into the field? I wanted to see if I could get in on the action. Say I came to your office one day and said, I want to become a data scientist too. Would it be possible? What advice would you give?
There are many ways to become a data scientist, but actually the most important thing is having experience working in a company or industry to better understand and interpret the data. And of course, you need to have studied statistics, engineering, or computer science at university. But a US expert once said you need a minimum 5 to 8 years in the field experience to become an elementary level data scientist.
So it's probably too late for me. But nurturing talent in fourth industrial revolution industries such as data and other computer science is said to be a key challenge facing Korea and the rest of the world.
The government and academic circles need to spend time and answer what kind of education we need to teach our young generation so they are better prepared. Whichever nation prepares best for this new world will be the one that will be able to lead it.
Kwon Jung-ho, Arirang News.
Well, those are stories we're following on this Friday morning here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website, arirang.com/news. We also have a smartphone application. You can find that by going to your app store and searching for Arirang TV. Have a great Friday. Goodbye.